very understandable. The pre-recorded video segments are well produced and meet professional standards. The print materials, handouts, and other supplements to the video teleconference are adequate to do the job. Formative evaluation is time-consuming and at times can be expensive, but it is an essential part of the development process for video teleconferencing. It provides an invaluable source of information which can reduce the possibility of failure dramatically. The more information collected during the formative evaluation process, the more the likelihood of success. It increases the chance for receiving good reviews during the summative evaluation from the audience and other stakeholders. A major factor in the success of formative evaluation is a thorough needs assessment. In fact, some consider needs assessment a part of the formative evaluation process. As the video teleconference is developing, you should also keep an eye on the calendar and the budget. Although going over the timelines and the set budget is not necessarily a sign of poor quality, they are good indicators that something is wrong in the system and should be corrected. Another factor is analyzing policies and procedures you have set previously and reviewing them with a critical eye. This means considering new alternatives as you gain more experience in organizing and delivering video teleconferences. Reviewing policies and procedures inevitably entails monitoring all major activities and processes which I have been presenting so far, and these are management issues, instructional design considerations, formative evaluation, summative evaluation, faculty presenter support, instructor skills. This review process should enable the manager of a distance education system or video teleconferencing program to determine the level and quality of the performance of all those who are involved in the entire process. Always remember, quality assurance is an ongoing evolutionary process. The task will never be completed, as there will always be room for improvement, and making the video conference not only meet but exceed the expectations of all its stakeholders, from participants to managers to the client organizations. Summative evaluation. Once a single teleconference or a series is completed, a summative evaluation should be conducted to assess its success and its impact on the audience. Assessment of the success involves finding out if all the stakeholders are satisfied with the process and the outcomes of the project. Measuring the impact of video teleconference on the audience involves finding out if the participants learned all the objectives which were defined at the beginning of the project. After all, the procedures and process that I have been discussing are followed so that the learner attains his or her learning goals. Evaluation is a technical field, and a professional should be hired to conduct the summative evaluation. An outsider also provides objectivity which an insider may lack. The evaluator should be required to provide you with the following information: how many participants proceeded to complete the program? Was the program effective in leading the learners to attain their learning objectives? What were the test scores for the participants? And if the conference was part of a national program or certification, how the learners compared to the national norm? Were the participants satisfied with the teleconference? Were other stakeholders, such as sponsoring government organizations or businesses, managers, administrators, and community leaders, satisfied with the program? Were there any positive or negative, unintended or unanticipated results? How summative evaluation results could be presented to the conference staff so that they could improve the quality of the following broadcasts. We'll break now for some questions, and then we will continue with a discussion on emerging technologies in the field.
We now invite questions and comments from the many downlink sites connected with us today. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call, and that these questions be as brief as possible. We also ask that you make your phone calls at some distance from the television monitor to avoid feedback. You may call the studio directly at the phone numbers or fax which now appear on your screen. We have a fax from Sao Paulo, Brazil, from the Fundação Vanzolini. The question, Dr. Saba, refers to the fact that video conferencing equipment is interesting but expensive for developing countries in particular. What are the prospects for more of a mass production phenomenon as happened with personal computers to bring costs down?
I would like to respond to this question in three ways. Number one is that it is true that video conferencing requires massive capital investment at the beginning of the process. But if you take a look at cost per head, cost per student, you get a different picture. It is not as expensive as you might think that it is. The second response is that the integration of microcomputers and telecommunications is going to drive the cost down. Microprocessors are changing every 18 months. Every 18 months you get a microprocessor that is half as expensive as the prior microprocessor. So that's another response to that question. The third is designing new technologies. I think developing countries have to become involved with manufacturers at the stage that new technologies are designed. Normally, we get the technology after it is designed. I think educators need to become involved in the design of the technology up front and design cost-effective technologies that they can use in developing countries.
Good. We have a question now by telephone from the Instituto Tecnológico de Minatitlan in Minatitlan, Veracruz. Welcome. Your question, please.
Question is the following. Is there some kind of theory that explains the instructional design for video conference and therefore would guarantee that the objectives, the learning objectives, are actually accomplished?
The theoretical foundation, Dr. Saba.
There are several learning theories that relates to a good and effective distance learning. In fact, the second half of the teleconference, we're going to attend to these theories and describe some of them. So I suggest that you keep listening and we'll get to those points.
Good. We have a call also from Aguascalientes, from the Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes. Welcome. Your question, please.
What kind of counseling could you offer higher education institutions to implement, for them to implement a video conferencing system?
What kind of counseling? Okay.
There are several issues in implementing distance learning in higher education. I think that one major issue is faculty development. How you could train faculty to become involved in distance learning, to learn about the new telecommunication and become active in distance learning and distance education. That's one of the issues. The second, of course, is that most institutions of higher education are designed for the students to come to the institution. They are not designed to send education out there in the community. So you have to take a look at the entire university and redefine its mission in terms of outreach rather than campus-based education and training.
Okay, we have another call from Panama, from the Universidad Tecnológica de Panama. Welcome. Your question, please.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning.
La pregunta
The question is,
de prosperar esta modalidad de
if this video conferencing system really gets ahead, how long do you think we will need in order to get out of the way all these consulting agencies that do not offer video conferencing, which is basically what has happened with videotapes and video cassettes and movies on tape, on video.
It's a process of educating your service provider. A lot of service providers are not informed about how telecommunication systems can be used for education and training. You know, in the past, we used to buy our services from provider organizations after they were designed and after they were produced. I think that in the new economy that is emerging globally, internationally, we have to educate our service providers as what we need and how we need that service delivered to us. So you need to become proactive in teaching your service provider, in educating your service provider as what do you need from them. You have to become involved in needs assessment for them and move into a collaborative partnership with your service provider.
Mm-hmm. We have a call now from Tamaulipas, from the Universidad Autónoma de Tamaulipas in Ciudad Victoria. Welcome. Your question, please.
Thank you. The question is the following. How can we get interdisciplinary work done between amongst experts of TV production and pedagogy experts to be more efficient in working in this environment?
This is an excellent question. Both Dr. Rial and I have worked with educators over the years, and we know that broadcast professionals are more concerned with production values and television production necessities, and educators are more interested in theories and models of education and learning. I think that in the new environment that is created in universities, interdisciplinary cooperation among departments is also a necessity. It is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. So we have to become collaborators. We have to join forces in order to serve our clients better. The same lessons that we are presenting to you for educational teleconferencing and video conferencing also applies to educators in university settings.
Mm-hmm. And now we go to a call from Argentina, from the Universidad Nacional de Córdoba. Welcome to our program. Your question, please.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to get away from routine, since this is the last program of the series, end of the year. I would like to congratulate the San Diego State University Foundation and the International Training Center for this fantastic program that is integrating all of the Americas, because of the quality, the subjects, the topics presented, and because of the spirit of cooperation, and for the support that we have received from them during all our difficult times in our country, and because this is the beginning of this activity in Argentina. So I also want to thank all the people who have asked questions, because that has been fundamental. Also, now here comes the question. If we use the critical analysis method, do you think it's important, or do you think it would be advisable to organize teleconferencing? Are there any alternative methods for this kind of organization to organize video conferences other than the critical analysis? Thank you.
Thank you for the kind comments. We agree that there are many people to thank, and we're grateful to all of our assistants here and elsewhere, and especially to the callers, such as yourself. And Dr. Saba will address the question.
Well, video conferencing and teleconferencing are new technologies, and as we learn more about the technology, we're also learning more about models of learning that would apply to them. Critical analysis is one model. There are other models that are emerging. For example, collaborative learning. It is now necessary for us to engage our learners in collaboration, so that if you have several receive sites, you should attempt to make those receive sites communicate to each other and engage in a collaborative learning situation. The other approach is, of course, situated learning. Again, those are the concepts that we are going to address later in this video conference, but you need to present a learning situation to your audience as realistic as possible. Be as realistic as possible so that they would be able to transfer their learning into their work situation or into their classroom situation as much as possible.
We have a question now from Mexico, from the Universidad Nacional de México, Facultad de Medicina Veterinaria y Zootecnia. Welcome. Your question, please.
Buenos días. Habla Marta Diana Bosco de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México.
Good morning.
Tenemos dos preguntas
We have two
para el
questions for the
La
expert
primera
speaker.
es, ¿por qué no se habla de una evaluación
First
cualitativa
thing is,
de
why is it that we don't talk about
videoconferencia?
qualitative evaluation of a video conference, and why should we use humor, smile, and music in a video conference? Why would we have to include these elements?
Those are some of the elements that television broadcasters have used over the years to be more effective. And if we are going to use the medium, we have to learn lessons from broadcast professionals. Situation comedies is a good example. In many situation comedies, you see many teaching learning components. And if we're going to use the medium of television, we have to learn from broadcast professionals as well as educators.
I think that's an important point. I am very grateful that a number of people here prepare expert graphics, insert visually interesting materials to make the learner easier to relate to and follow what we're doing in a teleconference. We have a question now from Panama, from the Universidad Tecnológica de Panama. Welcome, your question.
Sí, muy buenos días.
Good morning.
Le hablamos de la Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá, del Centro Regional de Azuero.
This is from the Regional Center of Azuero. The questions are the following. The first question is, why do we have to follow the design model for telecommunication, for video conferences that is strictly behavioral? Why do we have that model, behavioral model? And the second question is, do you think that a video conference can be successful when it comes to, for learning a very wide volume of information, or do you think it should be in doses? Do you think it should apply to small doses of learning or teaching?
Dr. Saba?
Again, I have to say that we're going to cover other models of learning in addition to behavioral model. You have a very good observation. The instructional system design model that I presented earlier in the broadcast relates to Skinnerian behavioral model. Later in the broadcast, we're going to cover alternative models such as cognitive learning or other types of learning. So I suggest that you stay with us and we'll get to those points as well. As far as the amount of information presented in a video conference, you have to strike a balance between how much you want to present in the video portion and how much you want to present in text material that you're going to ship out to your receive sites. That is a decision that you as a education professional have to make. How much you want to cover in video and how much you want to cover in your print material.
And we have a call now from Brazil, from Key TV in Rio de Janeiro. Welcome. Your question, please.
Hola. Buenos días. Sí, mi pregunta.
My question has something to do with what other applications are in training are more used by organizations who use video conferencing. Specific applications.
Okay.
Several applications come to mind. Of course, teletraining is a specific application. The organizations that are using video conferencing the most are organizations that have branches in several parts of the country, if not several parts of the world. And they have one expert that is going to discuss his expertise with professionals in geographically dispersed organizations. So one of the models that is emerging is teletraining distributed expertise. The other model that is emerging, and we were going to discuss this later in the broadcast, is where you have just-in-time training, where the learner is within the context of his or her work environment. You are not taking the learner out of the work situation and putting him or her in a training situation, but you will keep your employee within the work context, and you would provide just-in-time training via telecommunications.
We have a call now from Aguascalientes in Mexico, the Universidad Tecnológica de Aguascalientes. Welcome. Your question, please.
No, estamos hablando de la Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes.
De Aguascalientes.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Es la Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes.
It's the Autonomous University of Aguascalientes, Universidad Autónoma. How efficient is this media for training? Because the message is very fast, the visual cues are very fast, and training for work, it means training for practical applications. So maybe you need to digest things, to process things a little slower than the visual cues go. That's the question.
That's true, and that's why increasingly trainers and educators are beginning to use interactive multimedia. Interactive multimedia, where the control of the pace of information is dependent on the learner and not the medium. In a medium such as video conferencing, it is good for us to discuss issues that you're raising. However, if you want to go back to some of the points that we have raised earlier in the conversation here, you would need a medium that is under the control of the user and not under the control of the medium per se. So interactive multimedia is the way to go when you're talking about specific content or specific skills.
Thank you for your calls and faxes. Let us now continue with Module 2, in which Dr. Saba will explain the emerging telecommunications technologies now being utilized in many of today's leading organizations.
Emerging technologies. So far I have been discussing instructional system design for state-of-the-art video teleconferencing, the type of teleconferencing that we are engaged in right now. Recently, however, several new media have emerged that are bound to expand video teleconferencing and how teaching and learning can be conducted. Two of these technologies are the World Wide Web and desktop video conferencing. These technologies have provided new opportunities for educators and trainers and have required a new approach to instructional system design, an approach that could optimize the use of these new media for instruction and training. The World Wide Web is a network of computer servers which enable the user to access multimedia information and provide multimedia information from anyone and to anyone who has access to the global internet. Desktop video systems reside in a personal computer in the form of an integrated circuit board. They enable the user to talk to another PC user who has the same kind of board, see the other person, and be seen by the other person, and share computer application files. In other words, the two computer users can work on the same data file at a distance. These multimedia distant technologies can be combined for instructional and training purposes. They are bound to revolutionize the way we teach, learn, and train. The integrated multimedia telecommunication systems have these characteristics, which makes them different in comparison to their analog cousins. From the present vantage point, it seems that the new educational media have four characteristics. These are interactivity, multimodality, virtuality, and ubiquity. First, we discuss interactivity. A significant feature of integrated distance education systems is interactivity. Unlike their analog predecessors, the new media are programmable and provide unprecedented possibilities for motivation, generative learning, knowledge representation, learner control, objective-based learning, exploratory learning, and simulation. In addition, they set the stage for development of the future generation of media, which will take full benefit from virtual reality and expert systems. Interactivity is a multifaceted concept and has been defined from several perspectives. For example, Michael Moore defined three types of interactions: learner-instructor, learner-learner, and learner-content interaction. The first two types of interaction via media are relatively new, and their full implementation has become possible by the convergence of computers and telecommunications. Learner-content interaction is relatively older, since print materials and analog media have provided for it for many years. The new digital multimedia platforms, however, make learner-content interactivity more complex, as they provide for various levels of learner control over how the information is searched, displayed, and responded to. Lucas delineated three types of learner content interactivity: reactive, as characterized by drill and practice; interactive, when the software is intelligent and provides differential responses depending on learners' characteristics; and proactive, when the computer is used as an object to think with. One example of these types of interactivity is a 5-level model of control for laser video discs. These levels range from level 0, when the video disc is played linearly with no provision for branching, to level 4, when the designer and user have several video disc players run by one or more computers to provide for complex proactive simulations. Whatever the form or the level of interactivity may be in the digital media environment, educators and learners have access to all modes of representation, which will take us to multimodality. The new media are translatable. Words, images, and sounds can be placed in one document or can be edited from any document to any other document. Information can be presented in text, graphics, animation, natural video, human voice, music, and special effects on the same platform. Moreover, multimedia software provide for linking a segment of information represented in any mode to any other chunk of available information. Hypermedia allows for an omnidirectional search of information, a part of which may be stored on a CD-ROM, compact disc, read-only memory, or a laser disc. The microcomputer drives the disc player to search and display the information. However, computers with advanced microchips and internal optical drives provide an even more powerful platform to designers and producers. Media computers, as Osborne put it, provide an integrated hardware, software platform for production and display of instructional information. Digitized audio, video, and text can be stored and retrieved for production of new instructional materials on the same system. Using total digital systems such as digital video, educators are able to represent information in any mode on demand. Optical scanners and video cameras enable them to transform information from analog to digital form for editing into multimedia documents. Using image processing software, visuals can be edited, enhanced, and transformed in a matter of seconds. Conducting such procedures in analog photography is only in the purview of professionals in a fully equipped darkroom. Music Instrument Digital Interface, or MIDI, provides the same freedom of expression for music and sound effects. A keyboard puts composing, interpreting, and the performing power of a full symphony orchestra, a jazz quartet, or a single instrument at the fingertips of instructional designers and media producers. More complex media production procedures, such as video editing, have also become digitized. On digital video editing systems, analog natural video and audio are digitized and mixed with computer-generated visuals, graphics, and overlays. The final product can be viewed in its digital form or converted to an analog form for storage on videotape. Digitizing full-motion natural video in color requires massive storage capacity. Software that connects microcomputer production workstations with mainframe computers can make massive storage and processing capacity of mainframes available on a desktop. An example of this software is PathWorks, which makes VAX computers accessible to Macintoshes. A technology that will greatly facilitate these multimodal uses of information is high-definition television, or HDTV. It has three advantages over the current NTSC, or National Television Standard Committee standard. It has twice as much resolution. Its aspect ratio is larger and is similar to the standard motion picture screen, that is 16 by 9, and it uses digital technology for imaging, storage, and transmission. As digital HDTV will become popular in the next 5 years, it will greatly enhance the ability of educators to use video and audio in conjunction with computers for display and use of information in any mode of representation. The convergence of modes of representation on one interactive platform has the potential of integrating the process of instructional design with the process of instructional media production. Already, software such as HyperCard and Toolbook has made rapid prototyping possible. Professionals and students in many cases prefer to develop, that is, design and produce, a prototype of a more elaborate interactive multimedia program with these authoring systems instead of designing a program in an analog storyboard first and then producing it on a computer. As media computers and their related software mature, it is conceivable that the concept of rapid prototyping will be extended to encompass the design and production of instructional materials as an integrated activity instead of two separate processes. A key factor to this integration